You're going to notice a woman in your home. You must ignore her. Classic scares. It was December of 1999 when she infested our quiet Midwestern home. My father called for me from downstairs. I assumed it was time for dinner. He was standing at the bottom of the stairs and had his hand up in an effort to keep me from coming down. The moment I saw the panic in his eyes, I knew something was wrong. "I want you to listen to me very carefully," he said. My heart started to race as he continued. "It's very important that you keep your eyes on me. You're going to notice someone else in our home, but you must ignore her as much as possible." I almost started laughing. My 12-year-old mind was trying to comprehend what he was getting at, assuming this was some sort of out-of-character joke. Before I could respond, he continued. "She's going to whisper things, follow you, and whatever else she can to get your attention. It's going to be very difficult, son, but you must never interact with her. I promise she will leave, but only if you pretend she isn't there and try not to think about her. Promise me." There were so many things I wanted to ask him, but I was too frightened and confused. I managed to spit out, "Okay, Dad." "Alright, come downstairs. It's time for dinner. Hurry, I've made her stronger just by telling you. But I had to. I can't afford you looking at her by mistake. Trust me. Now stay focused." He barked. I did as I was told and slowly crept down the stairs, keeping my eyes glued to my father's as he backpedaled into the kitchen. I felt the temperature drop significantly as I reached the first floor. I smelled a familiar, sickening, and sour scent in the air. It reminded me of the time a raccoon died in our wall and stunk up the house for a whole week. My father and I sat down at the table at the same time. My sister was across from me. Her head hung, and her eyes stared at the empty porcelain plate in front of her. My mother pulled a casserole out of the oven. Her eyes were swollen and tear-stained. I kept my focus on my family, but out of the corner of my eye I could see a blurry mess of dark, matted hair and sickly grey skin. There was no energy in the kitchen, drained of all the warmth and laughter that usually accompanied our meals. My sister grabbed my knee under the table and whispered, "Can you see her too?" I nodded. "Quiet," my father hissed. The woman walked forward with wet, crackling footsteps. The smell was nauseating. She crept towards the table, stopping directly behind my sister, only a few inches away, and rested a decrepit hand on her shoulder. She winced in fear and stared at me. I immediately put my head down. My mother served our dinner, doing her best to pretend as if everything was okay. I could see my father clutching my sister's hand underneath the glass table in an attempt to keep her from completely losing it. My sister spent the entire dinner with the skeletal hand on her shoulder. Nearly inaudible whispers spewed from the woman's mouth and filled the room like white noise. And that's how we lived for months, doing our best to live a normal life despite the ever-present, unwanted guest. Even if we left the house, she was somehow able to follow us all. Whenever the four of us were in the car, she could be seen in the rear-view mirror or standing on the side of the road. My parents didn't let anyone visit and never let us stay at friends' homes during the months of hell. We were able to whisper to one another when it was necessary to discuss her presence, if she wasn't too close. My father made us promise to never tell anyone. That was the only way to quarantine her, the parasite of attention. We concluded that she infected a single household at a time, unable to be seen by anyone outside the home unless their mind had been tainted with knowledge of her existence. I learned a few years later that my father was the reason for her arrival. His sister, back in the 70s, had been infected by another, and it followed my aunt into their home. In 1999, for whatever reason, my father struggled to keep the thought of her at bay. In turn, he brought her back into his life, and ours. We kept the promise of keeping her a secret from others, and it was the hardest thing we've ever done. All of us tried leaving the house as a group, and she followed. We couldn't bring ourselves to break our family apart. It was hardest for my mother, who was stuck alone with her, while we were at school and my father was at work. Everything changed the day my mother broke. It was a snowy February night. We had finished dinner, and my mother decided to go to bed early. She was sitting on their bed, making herself almost impossible to ignore. My mother couldn't take it. I heard her screaming from the bedroom, demanding that she leave us alone. My father sprinted upstairs to try and stop her. That was the last time I ever saw my mother. A pool of blood on the white carpet was all that remained. The woman was still there, but my mother was gone. In the following weeks, She whispered to me. She told me I could see my mother again. All I had to do was look and ask how. I never did. The reason I'm telling you is that I want you to think about her. I saw her again this morning, for the first time in 18 years. I cannot afford to lose my wife or children to the parasite. I need you to think about her dark hair and grey skin. Think about her in your home, so that she may leave mine. You're already infected, and eventually you're going to notice a woman in your home. You must ignore her. It's for your own good. I'm so sorry. My mom left me a set of tapes to watch after she died. My mom was the sort of person to look like a wallflower until you got close, and then spout out facts about her favorite animal. It was an emperor penguin. She said their journey for love and parenthood was the hardest and most connecting with her. I'm told all the usual things about her. She had a smile that could light up a room. Her laugh cut through the malaise of an awkward party. Her stride was confident, and her form was elegant. From the day I could understand what it was to be remembered, she was painted to me as a true goddess. After all, aren't all mums supposed to be that to their children growing up? Mum died when I was 4. Aggressive cancer riddled her body with tumors, stole her stride, her smile, her laugh. Everything in just 18 short months. I didn't see her for much of it. But if I did, I obviously didn't remember. I heard somewhere we don't start forming memories until we're around 2 years old. And implicit memories, those unconscious memories that stick with us automatically, aren't even until we're 7. So essentially, my mother was already dead for 3 years before I could even unconsciously think of the word mom and go to her face. A face that was stolen from me, a face that I'll never see. I'm giving you this background information now because it's vital that you understand my mom before we get into the thick of it. I can't sit here and tell you I loved my mom unconditionally. I didn't know her. Dad was never in the picture, so grandparents were where I was shipped off to. Good people, kind people. They raised me on stories of my mom and made sure to do the one thing she'd requested when her sickness finally got her. Show Nick the milestone tapes. For those unaware, a milestone tape is something where a loved one, usually a parent, records a loving video to congratulate their kin on a moment they're missing out on. First day of school, marriage, you get the picture. I remember being 5 years old. I had tripped on the stairs after miscalculating my steps and smashed my front tooth on the top step, sending my first baby tooth flying. Thankfully, the pain was short-lived in my mind. I was mere days from my birthday, and a surprise trip to Disneyland was coming up. In the middle of packing, I sat down in front of the TV with my grandpa Mihail, and him putting in these pristine discs, a gaudy logo flashing up on the screen still burned into my retinas to this day. Gone, but not deleted. A video message from Leonora Stankowski. The image would flicker for just a moment, always just a moment each time, then she'd appear. A young woman sat in a black leather armchair with a small table to her side and patterned wallpaper behind her. She was in her late 20s, with her raven black hair tied in a messy bun, strands curled and dangling down her porcelain face, a beauty mark sitting just beneath her right eye, the pair of them shining like emeralds that caught the first ray of sunshine. Black lipstick gave way to shimmering teeth and a smile that made even an oblivious little me feel lost. "Hi, Pumpkin, it's Mummy! I hope my little prince is watching the throne while I'm away. How can you be nearly 6 years old and already losing your baby teeth? You're growing up too fast, little man." She puffed out her cheeks as she feigned a frown before giggling. My heart sank in my chest. I knew something wasn't right even then. Her tone was playful, buoyant, and full of joy, like she'd never missed a moment of my life. "Make sure you put your tooth under your pillow tonight. Deda Mihail will make sure the tooth fairy comes and nothing else." She raised a single finger with a wink, posing for a moment before her face fell. Her posture sank, and she fell back into the armchair a tad, growing smaller as she coughed. After a moment, she cleared her throat with a quiet dignity and made sure the hand she coughed into went out of shot as she fixated on the camera with a weak smile. "Mommy loves you, my little crown prince. Close your eyes and breathe with me." I looked at my grandfather, and with tears streaming down his face and a bite on his lip, he put a hand on my shoulder and nodded. I did as I was told and took a long breath in, the air cold and filling my lungs, intoxicating me as I heard her words. The same words I'd come to hear at the end of every video she recorded: "I'll always be with you." And so it went. For every milestone I undertook, there was an accompanying video. When I graduated middle school, when I rode my first bike, even when I broke my first bone, she had a video ready. I was around 11 when biking home from school, and I collided with a speeding driver. The bastard didn't even stop as my small body careened over his windscreen, rolled over the hood, and smashed into the concrete, tearing my right arm to pieces. Passers-by said it was a freak accident, that the car just appeared out of nowhere and then vanished. But hell, what do hit-and-run drivers do? Speed, speed, speed. Medicated up to my eyes and sitting up in the hospital, Grandpa handed me a mini DVD player, and the familiar face shot up. I could never tell you in those earlier videos if these were done back-to-back or months apart, but Mom still looked radiant, albeit with more coughing in each iteration. "Hi Pumpkin, it's Mommy!" Though I'm sure by now you're probably cringing at the mere mention of me referring to myself that way. Oh god, do people still say cringe? It's hard to know what the world you're in is like anymore, but mums are never supposed to be cool, are they? She chuckled, a faraway look in her eye as the pit of my stomach expanded. No, I thought, tears in my eyes, gripping the sheets with my good hand. I want you to say those things. I want you to embarrass me. Well, if you're watching this, then you've broken your first bone. I hope it's a bit later in life and not when you're so upset you can't even hear me. But sweetie, this is an important life lesson that I wanted to be there for. Pain happens. It's a part of our world, and everyone in it must experience it. Sometimes it's physical, like now, when your body hurts so much that you want to yell and cry out. Sometimes it's emotional, which you get when someone upsets you, hurts your feelings. Something you might also feel from seeing my face right now, which I'm sorry for. She trailed off, that weak smile plastered across her face like the greatest lie ever told. She took a breath, and I heard the quivers in her voice, both from sadness and from sickness. But you are my little crown prince, and while you're watching the throne, I know you'll do great things and overcome anything that stands in your way. You know why? Why? I breathed, my body radiating with hot pain, but my heart aching. I leaned in as she leaned in, like sharing a secret only we would ever know. Because you're my son, and my love for you will push you to do anything, she whispered, my face involuntarily growing into a smile without even realizing. Just don't look at the wall behind me. My eyes were fixed on hers, a small sliver of the background visible behind her ear. As my eyes slowly broke from her gaze and traveled over, she spoke again. Don't. A frantic whisper escaped her lips. My eyes snapped back as a pale shade shifted out of sight. Blinking once, I saw she was sitting back in the chair, talking as if nothing had happened. Had I dozed off? I was on high pain medication. It wasn't impossible. I'm running out of time. These are only supposed to be short, so I'll finish up here. Mommy loves you, my little crown prince. Close your eyes and breathe with me. Again, I did as instructed and heard a distinct creaking sound from the speakers, undoubtedly her settling into her chair. I'll always be with you. As the years went by, fewer milestone videos popped up. Some of them were simply mundane, or not that noteworthy. Not why we're here. But the usual events: first day as a freshman, last day as a senior, prom night, and even an embarrassing one wherein a 17-year-old me had the most uncomfortable 15 minutes of being explained dating etiquette and safe sex by my long-gone mother. By the time I'd reached 21, only 4 tapes remained. Grandpa Mihail had passed and Grandma Souza was getting on, so they were given to me with the obvious instruction not to watch them until the time was right. And this is the part where things take a turn. A bad breakup, bad life choices, even worse friendship choices with substances readily available, a lifetime of insecurities stemming from no parental figures, all the love in the world to my grandparents, but it's not the same, and a series of videos from your long dead mom are enough to fuck anyone up. So, I grabbed a bottle, some pills, and put the next video in, planning to binge them before I took my leave. I mean, fuck it. What's the harm if I'm ending it all, right? The video flickered and cast a long shadow across my dismal apartment before the visage of my mom came into focus. It had been a couple of years since the last video, and in my emotionally unstable, drunken state, I was not prepared for what I saw. Emaciated, sunken eyes and a slack jaw. Her tongue hanging out and drooping to the bottom of her chin. Thick, pungent saliva, with her concave chest heaving under the weight of the oxygen machine wrapped around her face. a looming shadow with two bright blue orbs for eyes and jagged pillars for teeth wrapping its arms around her. It locked eyes with me and cocked its head to the side. New, it croaked, my skin bubbling with fear and chilling my blood. I had never felt a terror like it. It felt like it knew me and saw into me. I recoiled and, in my cocktail of fear and horror, retched up everything I'd downed not 10 minutes earlier. A torrid mixture of bile, acid, pills, and booze spread over my carpet as tears ran down my face. My stomach ached, and every cell in my body screamed at me in protest. The thoughts swirling in my thick skull were those of disappointment, disgust, and repulsiveness. I felt weak, alone, and broken as I collapsed onto the floor in the fetal position, sobbing, "Sweetie, it's Mom." Through blurred eyes and a haze of pain, I looked at the TV, half expecting some emaciated creature to lurch through. But there was my mom. She looked tired, her hair now matted to her head, and exhaustion racking her bones, but beauty radiating through her as she held her hands in her lap and leaned forward, smiling. If you're watching this, then things are bad. I don't know how bad, but I can guess. Grandpa wouldn't have let you watch this if you'd gotten your heart broken, or were at that age where emotions are as high as a kite and just as volatile, so I can assume that, much like me, you're in a bad place. She coughed, and I felt the need to sit up and give her my full attention. This woman, no more than 6 years my senior, frozen in time, still finds ways to command my attention with her every word. It was like I was 5 again. "Sweetie, I know I can't talk to you like a child anymore, so I won't. Honestly, I'd been so excited to see you grow up, go through that phase where we bicker and argue over small things before finally settling in the longest and most beautiful phase of our family dynamic." I watched her lips quiver and her eyes glaze over, my own mirroring, as she shakily concluded, "The one where we're best friends who always look out for each other." That broke me. Every emotion I'd trained myself to hide away when kids started asking questions I couldn't answer. Situations I'd wanted my mom in, moments I felt alone. I let it out in one volatile evening of self-healing, the words on that tape echoing in my head long after it stopped playing. The road ahead will be tough without me. It was always going to be, but you're the crown prince, and you'll eventually have that throne. Survey your kingdom, and know you can do anything and conquer anything. It's getting closer now, but we still have some time left, so don't let whatever is going on beat you, nor the thing after that. The penguins didn't, did they? I'm sure Grandpa told you, but they're my favorite. Those little birds share the burden of parenthood, walk over 100 miles, and nearly starve to cultivate new life. I do all of that and more for you, honey, because... She closed her eyes, and I did too. Without prompting, we said it together, "I'll always be with you." It took time to get better. All things do. I would spend so many nights in withdrawal with the shakes, vomit, and staring up at a horrific beast looming over my bed. Like the thing on the TV, but foggier. It'd imitate my movements and try to get closer. With every step, its eyes would glow just a bit brighter. Everything else remaining shrouded in darkness, even if light passed through my curtains. I don't know how I made it through that time of my life. One night, as it made its way to the foot of my bed, I closed my eyes and breathed on instinct, reciting my mother's mantra. I suppose in moments of crisis, we turn to our most personal coping mechanisms, and I wasn't about to go back to the bottle. When I finished, it was gone. Over the years, I completed my program, got clean, and went through therapy to cope with the grief. When I hit 26, I met the second most important woman in my life, Natalie. She knew what it was like to go through pain, to go through suffering alone, to play with the wrong demons. We fell in love. We got engaged and eventually married. As she had been countless times before, Mom was there to congratulate us. Natalie had seen some tapes, but this was the first one that, in its own way, was directed to her. Mom was nearing the end by this point, her thin frame barely clinging to her always beautiful dresses, and her skin beginning to stretch like paper. She took great gulps of air from the oxygen tank before talking, but somehow retained that exuberance she'd always had. "I knew you'd find someone wonderful eventually, Nick. Penguins always find their mate for life, and you'd be no exception." She giggled through strained coughs, turning her head slightly as if she could see Natalie. "I don't know you, but I bet you're the most beautiful woman in the world if my crown prince chose you. Well, after me, of course." Another laugh, this time accompanied by tears from the two of us. "There's just one more to go. So, look after each other, love well and experience everything you can, and don't forget." Natalie gripped my hand with her left, a hand on her bump with the right as we closed our eyes. I could hear the scratching sound more prominently now, but I kept my eyes shut, not wanting to ruin the moment. "I'll always be with you." We were so excited to have a baby. Natalie had come from a big family and was eager to start expanding our own. Even though I was reluctant, I couldn't help but share in her enthusiasm when so many late nights were spent fawning over baby names, cute outfits, and lofty plans for the future on how our kid would even behave around us. Determined to be cool parents, but in between all of that, my mind would cast back to those tapes of my mom, the only parent I really knew. I wanted to use them as a guidebook for my own steps. She'd been such an integral part of life, it seemed odd to not have her in it now. Keeping the last tape separate, I re-watched the entire set one by one, reliving those moments I couldn't truly appreciate until my own burgeoning journey into parenthood. But when I got to the broken bone tape, I froze. Once again, she leaned into the camera and whispered, eyes full of fright and panic, "Don't look." I pushed pause on the video and took a moment. Surely I was just highly medicated at the time, there couldn't really be anything there, right? So why was I so reluctant to move my eyes to the right to find out? Taking a breath, I moved the video frame by frame and watched the corner where her face didn't cover. That shadow, that same fucking shadow, looming in the background, eyes burning red with fury. "Don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look." I jumped. The video was skipping, stuck on the sounds of my mother's panic-stricken voice, begging me not to stare. But I couldn't help it. I stared and watched this creature take confident, unnatural, and twitchy strides from the background, getting ever closer to the camera. I saw the muscles on its face twist and undulate as it pressed its cheeks up into a twisted grin, the sight of rot and earth and unspeakable things in its mouth, all displaying themselves in full glory as it intonated one word that sent screams through my home before shutting off. Soon. Natalie was 8 months gone, petite, and had a history of prior drug abuse. They said her heart just couldn't take it. Her body gave out, and that it was a miracle our daughter survived. I took it all in, and yet none of it as I cradled my entire universe in my arms, the second greatest woman I'd ever known, now taken from me too. "Phoebe," I breathed, unable to take my eyes off of her perfect little face as she slept soundly just 12/5 from her dead mother. Her name is Phoebe, and she is the crown princess. Somewhere in the corner of my eye, a shadow cast itself over Natalie's bed, right as they put the sheet over her. From that night on, there would always be noises outside our home, always faint howling, always a solitary spot in the front of the property where no light could touch it. For a while, I forgot about the videos, forgot about everything that wasn't Phoebe. Raising her became priority number one, and I would work any extra hours I needed to, give up any friendship I had to, and spite myself in whatever way was necessary to ensure that my perfect girl slept soundly at night. It wasn't until Phoebe's second birthday last week that I finally got the courage to dig out the videos and watch the last one. How many times had I sat in a home, emotionally destroyed, and at a crossroads in my life, waiting to see this woman's face and hope she'd somehow have the magic words to guide me. As the picture flickered on, the logo shining up on screen, I cast my head back with a mixture of surprise and sadness as I realized the significance of the year. I was older than her now. "Hi, sweetie, I guess we finally reached the end, huh?" Her voice sounded younger. I looked down and saw her standing up. No chair or wallpaper in sight. It looked like she was recording this in her bedroom, a picture of health, all things considered. Her eyes red from crying, but her voice unwavering, like she'd prepared these words carefully. "This is technically the final video for you, but the first for me. Weird how this all works, but this is how it needs to happen. If you're watching this, you've got your own little princess to protect. The crown prince has now become the king, and I couldn't be prouder." She beamed, but my stomach tightened at those words. "Your own little princess." I breathed, my chest tightening. How did she know? I imagine you're now wondering how I know. Well, that's not the important part. What's important is if you saw what you think you saw. Within the videos, between the frames. Something is lurking here, Nick. Something ancient. I felt the house shudder, settling into place, no doubt. But I couldn't separate myself from the fear running through my body. It feeds on misfortune. It watches from the shadows and waits for small, tiny windows to make itself known. I don't know where it came from or what it is, but I know what it wants. A rumbling behind me, the sound of wood splintering and creaking. The unmistakable sound of tapping that I'd heard every time we did the mantra at the end of a video. I was shaking, but I didn't stop watching. It wants us, Nick. We seem to be a source for it. When it finishes using us, it moves on. A long time ago, I was told that if I captured it in film, solidified it in these repeatable tapes, it would slow it down. Maybe even stop it. I have no idea if it will work, but you deserve to know now that you can almost certainly see it too. Because if it doesn't stop here, if you start to see it, start to experience misfortune. My heart skipped, tripping over the stairs and narrowly missing cracking my skull as a child, losing my first tooth, that the hit and run that shattered my arm, my first broken bone, marrying and losing Natalie, my first love. Oh no. Oh God, no. I willed my body to move, to leap out of the seat and rush to Phoebe's room, but I had to hear the rest through, screaming at my mom to tell me the solution. When your Deda Mihail told me about our curse, how he took me in after my father died, about how it passes from father to daughter, mother to son, and so forth, you can try to avoid it, but it always finds a way. She looked down in shame, clutching at her sleeves. Truth be told, I didn't want to get pregnant, but things have a way of happening, and I knew I couldn't give you up. She glanced behind her, something off camera scaring her into grabbing at her arms and rubbing them, shame and fear on her face. I'm so sorry, baby, but I want you to know that there is power in these words, in these videos. I will do everything I can to protect you, just like I know you'll protect your child, no matter who it hurts in the process, because one last time. I just had to close my eyes one last time and it would all be over. I did it on instinct. It didn't matter that there was a slew of sounds alerting me to an invading presence in my home, that it was rapidly approaching me. All that mattered was the mantra. I'll be here for you. Always. But what I heard parroting me back was not my mother. A guttural, inhuman voice barked back the phrase, and I swear I felt its breath inches from my face. I felt eyes unrestricted by pupils or sockets spin around, focusing on my weakest point, but I didn't waver. After a few agonizing moments, it darted away and out of view, leaving only the static of the TV to keep me aware that I wasn't in fact dreaming. As soon as I knew it was safe, I ran to Phoebe's room and checked on her, convinced that she was next in a long line of losses. Convinced that some otherworldly spectre had taken her from me. Convinced I would be alone again. You can imagine my relief when I opened the door to find her softly sleeping, clutching her teddy bear with its own attached blankie, the same toy my mom had given me. I looked at her with the enormity of the situation overshadowing me, the realization that she was the same age I was when my mom got diagnosed, the realization that soon I would be the one making a slew of videos for milestones I'd never get to see her inherit, my crown princess's kingdom of nightmares. And I don't know if this is what my mother intended, but I took those words at the end to heart. Protect your child, no matter who it hurts in the process. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't know how this translates across mediums, but there is power in describing an old and malevolent force. Just like there is seeing it in the corner of your eye, or when you experience a lucky break from death. A misstep here and a wrong turn there. You'll always see it. My mother gave up everything to buy time, give me the chance to right the wrongs and find a better way. A way that involves my daughter growing up with her father in her life, without the plague of whatever this is hanging over either of us. Maybe you won't be the one, maybe it will simply look at you and find you not to its liking. As it did me that fateful night, inches away from my flesh and determining that I simply wasn't ripe enough yet. But someone will come across this and it will bite. It will bite and never let go. Be it nightmares, sleep paralysis, a slew of unfortunate mishaps, or something flitting in the corner of your eye, it'll be there. Whatever it is. Waiting. I wish you well, and I hope you don't judge me too harshly, But to me and to Phoebe, family is everything. So close your eyes and take a deep breath, because they'll always be with you. If you're enjoying this so far, a like and subscribe would mean the world and help this channel grow. Let me know in the comments which story stayed with you the most. Now let's continue. You would probably be surprised at the number of bodies one can find out in the desert. You would probably be even more surprised at how often people play with the bodies, but I don't know. Since most of us tweakers or disadvantaged youth doomed to repeat the mistakes of our alcoholic mothers and abusive fathers, maybe you wouldn't be surprised at all. My best friend Cameron found last winter's corpse du jour, an old man in a dilapidated trailer. A white beard matted with corpse juice hung past his bony knees. So Cameron bought him a Santa hat from the Dollar Tree and christened him Satan Claus. Satan Claus was a popular attraction among the high desert's underbelly until Gidget Gagnon blabbed to her brother, who was a deputy sheriff. This pissed Cameron off. He didn't grow up here, so he didn't understand the rules. There's always a snitch, there's always a whiner, there's always a freak, and there's always someone who fantasizes about killing you. Even if he understood, he'd never have believed that I was both the freak and the person who fantasized about killing him. I'd known Cameron since we were teenage patients at a county psychiatric facility. It was the first time in our lives either of us had ever had security or structure. I miss it, honestly. We moved in together the second we could. For the record, we weren't lovers. We never even experimented. I couldn't separate sex from trauma and didn't particularly want to try, so I was voluntarily celibate. This enchanted Cameron because he has a Madonna whore complex the size of Babylon. I was his pure, unsullied princess. This is why he paid half my bills, supported me emotionally, and asked nothing in return. That's not to say he didn't have sex. Cameron was a bona fide man whore. That's the only reason he went to raves and parties. The girls. We were at just such a party the night I met Daddy. The party was in a bashed up warehouse that smelled like roadkill and alcohol. Cameron stayed glued to my side for a while, I guess to make sure no one else swooped in to fuck his Madonna off her pedestal. But it didn't last. It never does. A girl I recognized vaguely, waist-length black hair and makeup you could scrape off with a putty knife, was eyeing him ostentatiously. I thought it was disrespectful. To the untrained eye, Cameron and I were a couple after all. Now, Cameron was drunk by this point. He gets handsy when he's drunk, even with me. So I cuddled up and wrapped myself around him. He was enjoying it. Cuddling doesn't break the Madonna pedestal, it just makes him feel special. But I messed up. We were sitting in the corner starting to play around. He was looking at me in a way no one else ever does, bright and warm and hopeful, like I'm the most important person in the world. I could feel myself teetering on the edge of the pedestal. Then he leaned in to kiss me. I panicked. Before I knew it, I was running. I pretended I was flying, that I'd dash outside and leap into the air, taking flight among the mad whirl of constellations. I could almost see it. The warehouse shrinking as I gained altitude, the night wind cooling the sick heat inside me. For a mad moment felt the feathers sprouting from my skin, itchy and hard and growing fast. I made it outside and halted. No feathers, no flight, no night wind scraping the brokenness away. By the time Cameron found me, the night's chill had settled into my bones, and I was shivering. Only when he tapped my shoulder did I realize I'd been crying. I wiped my eyes hastily and turned. The black-haired girl lingered several feet away. She had a small smile, halfway between anxious and satisfied. "Hey," Cameron slurred slightly. "Demetria and I are leaving. Will you get home okay?" "Her name's not Demetria," I said in as bored a tone as I could muster. "It's Brittany." All at once, he looked a lot less drunk. "You know her name doesn't matter, don't you?" We stared at one another for what felt like a terribly long time. He was waiting for something, and I knew it. But I couldn't give it. Even if I could, I'd stop mattering the second he got it. "Don't keep her waiting, Cameron." His face somehow drew upward, then fell into a flat smile. He gave me a half-assed wave and left with Demetria. I counted to 1,000, then went back inside. A humid rush of sweat, piss, and beer burps crashed over me like a wave. The crowd writhed and squirmed like maggots. Music blared. Bargain bin lights spun over everything. It all seemed so pointless. Nothing would be accomplished here tonight. Nothing would ever be accomplished here on any night. I looked down at the floor. Amid the chewing gum, spilled drinks, gouges and stains, I saw 3 words written in black Sharpie. "Come to Daddy," an arrow underneath pointed east. I looked up at the pointless party, and I thought of Cameron, of the way he looked at me. He'd be giving that look to Demetria just now. I followed the arrow. Halfway across the warehouse was another message and another arrow. Keep coming. I followed it to the back wall, to another Sharpie message. Hurry, Daddy's waiting for you. This arrow was absurdly long and pointed to a bland door I wouldn't have noticed otherwise. I opened the door. Cold, foul air swept over me. I gulped a deep breath. It was preferable to the sweat-heavy humidity behind me. Before me was a set of rickety metal stairs. I descended and found myself rewarded with another message. Daddy's coming through the back. I turned into a low concrete corridor, lit by flickering fluorescent lights. Something came into view at the other end. Bony, huddled, and terribly small. A body. Its head lay tilted against the wall, open jaw yawing up at the ceiling. Overhead, painted in streaky letters, was a single word: Daddy. An oil drum sat next to Daddy. I withdrew, gagging, half-rotten sludge of dead vermin at the bottom. A nightstand sat on his other side, bearing a plastic container filled with Hershey Kisses. A hand-lettered sign read, "Give Daddy a kiss." This crazy bullshit was enough to salvage the night. Smirking slightly, I unwrapped a kiss and popped it into Daddy's gaping mouth. A second later, he shuddered and began to chew. His head lolled weakly. With a heavy grunt, he flopped forward so that his eye sockets were trained on me. Something glinted within, dark and iridescent like dirty oil. He swallowed the kiss and spoke. "What do you want from me?" Terror and mirth whirled together in a mad tornado. "What?" He lurched forward, his desiccated body hitting the concrete with a clatter. "I can give you one thing. Any one thing. What shall it be?" I thought about it. I really did. If wish-granting, Hershey-loving corpses exist, might as well take advantage of the wish. Except I didn't know what to wish for. I didn't want to be normal. People like Demetria are normal. I didn't want another life. Why bother when I barely want to live? I couldn't have Cameron. He'd have to turn into something he's not before that would ever be a possibility. I didn't want money. I didn't want a house. I didn't want a better job. All of these are changes. At some point, every change causes pain. I've had enough pain for a lifetime. "I don't know," I said. Daddy's dark eyes flared. "That does complicate things." He smiled. Papery skin cracked and split like porcelain varnish. "But it makes them interesting. Give me a rat." He pointed to the vermin barrel. "I need protein." It didn't occur to me to resist. This was the first time in memory that I actually felt alive. I snatched a mushy tail from the morass. Only half a rat emerged, melting into translucent rot before my eyes. I tossed it at Daddy, who lunged like a spaniel, and caught it in his mouth. He swallowed it whole, then said, "I can tell you the deepest desire of your heart and give it to you." "Why?" "Because I can." This was the only justification I recognized, the only one I believed, the only one that made sense. "Then do it." "Not that simple. I need energy." "More rats?" "Well, of a kind," he chuckled. "But not exactly." He watched me expectantly. Those sockets glinted madly, reflecting every color under the sun and several I couldn't describe. Music thumped from upstairs, loosening trickles of dust and reverberating through Daddy's lair. "I don't get it." "People. I need people. Or rather, parts of people. Skin, eyes, hair, livers." I eyed him suspiciously, wondering just how fast this monkey's paw motherfucker could run. "You could get all of those from me. You're my client. Clients pay the provider's price. You pay this provider's price in bodies. I need 2 eyes, 2 lungs, 1 stomach, 1 liver, 1 skin." He continued, rattling off every organ in the human body. Then he finished, "And each must come from a different person." I contemplated this briefly. "You'll show me what I want." "Something," I added silently, "that will make me happy. And you'll give it to me?" "I swear on my name." "Which is..." He wagged a finger. "Sorry, darling. Names are power here. But an oath upon my name, spoken or otherwise, is unbreakable." I watched him. He smiled widely. The thin remains of his mummified skin split and flaked off like snow. Under the lights, he looked like a cross between a Halloween decoration and a bad Photoshop project. Except for his eyes, those dark, writhing masses of nearly hidden colour. I turned around and went back up to the party. Almost immediately, I spied a long, shimmering curtain of black hair across the floor. For a triumphant moment, I thought it was Demetria. But no. She resembled Demetria though, and that was enough for me. She wandered around nervously, a tragically overgrown little girl lost. I pretended I was her ride home and led her downstairs. Daddy warped and shuddered, and grew into something that blotted the lights, something I couldn't look at without panicking, and swallowed her whole. I kept my eyes closed until Daddy cleared his throat. He'd grown skin, thick and fleshy, lipless. It reminded me absurdly of a squashily upholstered sofa. Dull, cracked teeth glinted in the recessed mouth. "Will I have more tonight?" I got Daddy a stomach, 2 eyes and a liver before the night was done. I chose dirty, dusty men, the kind that looked as if they'd been sucked dry. Homeless tweakers, people who, for all intents and purposes, have already disappeared. I know how sick it is, but please try to understand. The only things I ever feel are fear and panic, and that only happens when someone touches me unexpectedly. Can you imagine what it's like? To be dull and empty like a reptile, except when you're accidentally triggered into reliving the worst moments of your awful life. I'd have given anything to change that, anything to have something that would make me happy. So I fed Daddy people that no one would miss. It's easy to find them if you know what to look for. Men with sucked-in faces who ride children's bicycles, women with nice bodies and ancient, haunted faces, dust-caked teenagers, and old men sleeping under tarps in the desert. It took a month. In that month, Cameron began to date Demetria. She spent more time in my apartment than I did. After I walked in on her blowing him after a long shift, I went to my room and started to pack. I don't have much, so it didn't take long. Cameron caught me as I dropped the last bag in the trunk. His eyes were wet. "She doesn't mean anything," he said. I slammed the trunk shut. "Then that makes you a shitbag, Cameron. Tell me to dump her. I'll do it." "I'm not your mommy." He ran his hands through his hair. His lips started to tremble. Loathing exploded through me. "You're the most important person in my life." "Only because I can't be." I climbed into my car and drove off. After a couple of brutally cold nights under the stars, I moved into the warehouse with Daddy. He sang lullabies and fed me Hershey kisses from that dirty plastic bowl. No matter how many I ate, the bowl never emptied. Daddy didn't expect conversation, affection, or any attention at all. All said and done, it was a relief. I still went to work, of course. Cameron came in every night. I felt a cruel surge of triumph whenever he wandered in. He still looked at me as he always had, like I was the only person that mattered. Then Demetria followed him. The fight was a truly spectacular example of a white trash beatdown. He and Demetria were banned, and I got written up. It didn't really bother me. That night, I found a ragged, fat man in foul-smelling clothes out behind the restaurant. I told him he could stay at my house if he wanted. He was slow, childlike, and took me at my word. Daddy ate him quickly and spat the bones into the rat barrel. Then he burped, enormous fleshy cheeks beating like sails in the wind, and sat down. "We're almost done," he said. "Only one body left." I did a quick calculation. 2, a heart and a brain. He chuckled indulgently. "I've had a brain all this time. All I need is a heart." By this time, Daddy looked like a cross between Nosferatu, Frankenstein's monster, and a Picasso painting, pale, fleshy, and muscular, with ridiculous Fabio hair and a thick, indecently red mouth that didn't quite fit his skin. He had one green eye and one brown eye. In place of whites, that murky, oily rainbow continued to swirl. "I'll find it tonight," I told him. He hesitated theatrically. "There's a special rule for the heart." My skin tightened. "I need your heart." My pulse beat slow and heavy in my throat. "That's against the rules," he laughed. "You misunderstand. I don't need this." He tapped my chest. "Tired little muscle. I need your heart, only it's inside someone else." "What?" I asked levelly. "Are you talking about?" "A heart that is yours is a heart that loves you." "You mean Cameron?" He smiled and nodded. I almost left. But why? Cameron didn't really love me. He loved his illusion, his pure little princess, someone he couldn't touch, someone who was too good to be touched. It was a paradox. The moment he got what he wanted would be the moment he lost it. But he could help me get what I wanted. If he really loved me, that would make him happy, wouldn't it? I drove to my old apartment and knocked. Cameron answered the door, smelling like dirty clothes and whiskey. His eyes went wide when he saw me. Then he started to cry. "She's gone," he said. "I'm so sorry." "You've got nothing to be sorry for." I came inside and held him. He got handsy. I let him. Maybe because I was expecting it this time, or maybe because there was finally a light at the end of the tunnel. It was okay. Not enjoyable. My heart raced, and I felt sick, and he was too intoxicated to do a whole lot. But he was gentle and careful. He got what he wanted. Before he could realize that he'd knocked his angel off her pedestal. Before he could take my heart away. I talked him into a drive. The drive to the warehouse was the happiest I'd ever seen him. I led him through the warehouse, pausing every minute or two for a hug or a kiss. That was fine. It was good to make him happy. Quid pro quo. Only when he saw Daddy, hulking and grinning under the fluorescent lights, did Cameron realize that something was wrong. Daddy stood up. He looked awful, 9 feet tall and completely wrong, a hybrid of every childhood nightmare. "Get back," Cameron told me. Daddy charged. Cameron shoved me toward the stairs. I felt his hand on my back, felt his pulse beating through his wrist, for a fraction of a second. Then Daddy grew, blotting the lights, bones creaking and cracking as he exploded into something I couldn't comprehend. And then, like all the others before him, Cameron was gone. My heart began to pound. From grief or excitement, I couldn't tell. "We're done," I said. "So where is it?" "Where is what?" Daddy stretched luxuriously. "What I want." I could feel my blood pressure rising. "The thing I want." "You mean the deepest desire of your heart?" "Yes." He grinned and dropped to his haunches, posing like a runner about to take off. "Here it is." He took a deep breath. The stillness was excruciating, poised overhead like a crushing weight. Then Daddy opened his mouth and threw up. Bloody and foul, full of shattered bones and flesh, it flooded toward me like a tide. And floating within it, a pale crown jewel, was Cameron's head. Daddy gurked up, a final outpouring of viscera, and settled back. There it is. My skin prickled and stung. I thought of feathers, small and hard and piercing the skin as they forced their way up. I turned and ran. I did not fly through the air, but I flew across the sand. Stars lit my way, a million eyes glazing the desert in silvery darkness. Sometime around dawn, just as gold and red bloomed across the horizon, I tripped and fell. I remember watching the sunrise. Then everything went dark. Cameron found me. When we got home, he helped me into the shower. I sat blankly as dust and dried blood skirled down the drain. After 20 minutes, he helped me out and put me to bed. I fell asleep quickly. I woke around mid-afternoon. Sun streamed through the window. Cameron slept beside me. His shirt was hiked up halfway over his back, revealing what looked like a tattoo. I lifted his shirt, half expecting to see Demetria's embellished name, and froze. Not a name. Not even a tattoo. Just 7 words written in black Sharpie. Give Daddy a little more credit, honey. If you made it to the end, you're braver than most. Hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. More disturbing stories are waiting. I'll see you next time.